Hey, look out. It's Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
What a pleasure to talk to Chris Gould. It's been a while since we've seen Chris. Chris is the Senior VP of Salem Media Group, specifically National Program Development and Ministry Relations. Chris, how are you?
Doing well, guys. Good to be with you. Good to be on Faith Talk Live in Atlanta. Great to be with you.
We were just commenting before we got started, all the books you have behind you. I mean, just like you've got your own library there. Now, have you read each and every single one of those books?
Every single one. I'm just double checking to make sure you guys are theologically sound in Atlanta. So if, I may have missed some of the prison terms, but,
Well, they didn't have enough evidence to convict me, but Rick, yeah, he was. So.
I did notice on Chris's desk, there's a folder with your name on it and my name on it. Now I'm a little concerned. Well, Chris, what a pleasure. It has been a while since we've seen you. Have you been doing much flying at all, or are you guys still kind of in lockdown mode? What's going on?
Yeah, Rick, my last trip was the NRB, which was in Nashville in February. Mm-hmm. So I typically will fly 3 or 4 times a month. And, I'm going to all the markets and visiting the ministries all over the country. And that was my last trip. So, it's been very quiet. Everything's just been kind of on lockdown. The neat thing is that all of these video programs, Zoom, and now, is it StreamYard or StreamYard?
It's StreamYard.
StreamYard. Okay.
StreamYard, yeah.
So it was my first time on this one, but it makes it so much easier to connect. And so, staying connected with people. Most of the ministries are all doing well. But I miss seeing you guys. I miss being in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm. You miss the traffic is what you miss, isn't it? Because everybody loves traffic in Atlanta. Yeah,
the traffic, even if you're close to the studios, no matter how far the commute is to the studio, it always takes about 35, 40 minutes to get there, even if it's like 100 yards.
Yes, indeed. You're right.
Now, for the folks that are watching and listening, now we know what you do, and you do it so well, and you enjoy the ministry relations. You do program development as well. Kind of in a nutshell, explain what you do and how you feel about it, how you like it.
Sure. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. So 2 kind of responsibilities. The National Program Development is a position that was set aside here at Salem about 30 years ago. And basically, Salem realized the position we were in as we were acquiring these radio stations in major markets all over the country. Of course, we're in New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, there in Atlanta with a couple of radio stations in all these big cities. The ministries really deserved to have someone on their side at the corporate office. So all the time slots didn't go to one ministry or another. It was a fair process, and we've programmed every single radio station independently. So it's not a big network. So, if you're David Jeremiah, who's, phenomenal preacher, or Charles Stanley, you don't get 7:30 a.m. everywhere in the country. Mm-hmm. It's programmed fairly, and it's competitive. And so basically, it's a chance for ministries to have someone on their side, and that's what I do. So I work on behalf of all the ministries and integrate that with what we do at the radio station level. And I work with your bosses there, Adam Wattenbarger and Val Carolyn, and all the VPs and GMs around the country. And so I'm really in kind of the catbird seat, because all the ministries are interested in spreading the gospel and teaching people across America. And of course, radio stations are interested in serving their communities as well, too. So it's a great partnership. So number 2 is the ministry relations, which is definitely more focused on the local church, the local pastors, and the pastor events that we've been executing for over 20 years. That now falls under my responsibilities as well, too.
And speaking of those pastors events, obviously because of COVID, we've had to change the way that we've been doing the pastors events, where normally we would get together in a big room, like at the Georgia Aquarium. We've done Cobb Energy Center, all these places. But because of COVID, we're not able to do that. So at Salem, we said, you know what, we're not going to just stop doing them because we love pastors. Let's do them virtually, and that's what we've started last week, and we're doing them every week. Talk about how the decision to go virtual and how it's been working so far.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, when we first learned about COVID, I think we were on the phone with all the local ministry directors in March. And I had a whole agenda of things I wanted to talk about, for the rest of 2020. One of the local ministry directors, I think it was Marcos from San Antonio, he said, hey, what are we going to do if we can't hold pastor events like the rest of the year? And everyone was quiet on the call. And then he said, maybe we should explore doing something virtually, like on a digital platform. It was like a big light bulb went on, for all of us. And I just swept everything on my agenda off the desk, and we just talked for the rest of the hour about how would that work? How would it work for the local radio station? How would it work, nationally? How would we put it together? And after multiple calls and meetings and all that kind of stuff, we decided that we would do it. So the way it came together is we just said, okay, so what we could do locally, where you might have Tony Evans or Chuck Swindoll or John MacArthur come to Atlanta. He'd have to fly there, he'd have to stay in a hotel, get up in the morning and get to the venue and speak to your 200, 300, 400, 500 pastors that you gather every year there in Atlanta. And a phenomenal event, great fellowship, corporate worship, chance to hear from a great pastor, and that's the key to these events, guys. By the way, we try to secure actual pastors so that they're speaking to pastors. So who knows better what a pastor goes through than a pastor? And so that's the way it would typically work. But now it's all assembled in a digital series. Think of it as an episode. It's 90 minutes long, and we've got 2 main speakers every week in the month of October. So each episode, 5 episodes, each episode has 2 high-profile teachers and speakers. So last week we released John MacArthur and Tony Evans with Matthew West doing the worship. Phenomenal, by the way. And your pastors there in Atlanta, anybody watching us, could just go to your website, sign up for free. It's a free event, and all they have to do is register, and they could watch that episode right now. They could watch it in its entirety, and again, it's all free of charge, and all the content is curated directly to pastors. So you sit there and you watch it, you're going to be encouraged, edified, equipped, you're going to be blessed. And I can assure you, I'm so proud of our team in putting together just excellent content, super well produced, and it's a very enjoyable experience. So that's kind of how it came together and where we're going.
Talking with Chris Gould, Senior Vice President of Salem Media Group. Chris, it's interesting because when Dan and I saw the lineup, I mean, obviously you're going to have Greg Laurie, right? You're going to have Sam Rodriguez. You mentioned Chuck Swindoll, of course. And then we saw the CCM artists that go along with that. Mac Powell for King and Country, Stephen Curtis Chapman, Michael W. Smith. You mentioned Matthew West. And we thought, wow, how cool is that? I mean, you get a great word, but to hang with these CCM artists. How did you culminate that? That seems, at one, it's a logistical juggling act, right?
Yeah.
But how did you get everybody to say, yeah, this date, and they just flow so well together?
What's really amazing, guys, is, I don't think we really truly realized the depth and breadth of our partnerships until COVID. Of course, we've always appreciated the ministries and the music artists, on the Fish. And of course, we've got great relationships. But when I asked the pastors to speak and put this content together, we got 100% acceptance.
Wow.
They all said, of course, this makes total sense.
Yeah.
And again, for John MacArthur or, whoever it might be, normally they would have to fly to each city to visit everybody. And now they cut one message and we distribute it, we promote it, and we plug in. We've already had thousands of pastors have already watched episode number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you think about the multiplication process, and just a word to the megachurch pastors out there, a lot of these guys are my friends and I have great respect for them. I know none of them really set out to be megachurch pastors, but they wanted to serve God. They heard the call. Nobody else heard it. They heard the call to be a pastor, and their church has grown. God has blessed them. But to my megachurch pastor friends, there's now no excuse for you to interact with this content, because you don't have to come, you don't have to drive, you don't have to be in a room full of pastors. You can watch it right there in the comfort of your own office. You can watch it with your wife. You can watch it with your kids and your family, because the content is designed specifically for pastors and ministry leaders and people who are shepherding others. So it's been real cool to see it all come together. It's been a logistical challenge. You're right, Rick, no doubt about that. Got a great team here at Salem, Dan Nelson in events and production, and Jasper and a bunch of other guys on the team that are putting all of this content together. And again, it's a great experience.
It's so cool to see how we've been able to adjust, because obviously none of us were expecting COVID. None of us were expecting all of this to happen. And at first, when it all happened, we were all like, oh, what are we going to do? But then we calmed down. We all got together and we've made it work. And it's phenomenal how, I mean, just listening to the pastors that are involved in this virtual pastors event. Like I know this week we have Alistair Begg. We're going to have Chuck Swindoll. We've got folks coming up that are just phenomenal pastors that normally we don't have access like this to, right?
Yeah, it's so true. You know, you mentioned Alistair. So Paul Cannings and Alistair Begg will be on this episode coming up. It's released tomorrow at 10 a.m. So if you're eager for the content, you can be waiting right there on the website, on your website, and you can see it at 10 a.m. sharp. But then anytime after that, you'll be able to download it. And yeah, it's a great episode. One of the books I've got here, I don't know if you can see the title. It's called On Being a Pastor, which Alistair wrote along with Derek Prime some years ago. And you know, I mean, pastors are unique. As a matter of fact, in the foreword to this book, Albert Mohler, he's the president of Southern Seminary. Al Mohler says, the Christian pastor holds the greatest office of all human responsibility in all creation.
Wow.
And when you let that set in, you know, it's true, you know, above being a governor, even the president of a nation, you know, the Christian pastor holds the word of God, delivers the word of God to his congregation, teaches and preaches, he counsels. He is the center of the Christian community. And so again, we want to salute them through this event and make it available. You know, Alistair is one of our closest friends. He's been the pastor there in Cleveland since 1983. Doing a little quick math there, that's 37 years as a pastor.
Wow.
So again, I think he's got a little something to say, to bring to the table to other pastors. And having watched the message, it's absolutely incredible. So I encourage your pastors who are watching and ministry leaders to sign up and check the content out. And
with Alistair, that Scottish accent makes it all the better, you know? I mean,
yeah, he's got a melodious voice, doesn't he?
Love it. Love
it.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're talking with Chris Gould, Senior Vice President of Salem Media Group. We got to take a break here in a second, Chris, but we want pastors to check out the link. You can go to faithtalkatlanta.com, pick up the link. It is free. And as Chris mentioned, I mean, some heavy hitters. I mean, bat cleanup, knocking it out of the park this week. We've got this Thursday, and there's 5 Thursdays in this month, right? There's 5 virtual pastors appreciation events. So check out all of them. Real quick, Chris, what's coming up next for us as far as events? I know this is huge. but we've always got something in the hopper as Salem. What's next for us?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. We're talking about, does this mean that we, execute virtual events, for women in ministry, for worship leaders? We're looking at, it's all on the table. And as you've seen from some of your leaders there in the community, from, Andy Stanley and other guys, the online digital experience is superb. Now you can really have a very personal, connected experience. Now it's never going to take the place of being in person. Mm-hmm. So we all hope and pray that we'll be back together again soon. But in the meantime, I think that it means that we have to look at everything we do and stepping it up from a digital virtual perspective. And so that's what we're doing right now. So we'll see what 2021 brings, but it's going to be, I think, exciting for pastors for sure.
Hey, Chris, as an employee, and I can't speak for Dan, but I know we were separated at birth, so we both think the same way. Hey, thanks as leaders of our company, being willing to stretch and look at the 21st century and moving forward. It's very refreshing. And even as an old guy myself, 60, I'm still young at heart. So I think, God's got some great things for all of us in the years to come. But we appreciate you and your team and the entire staff there. And we appreciate what you do. And so we want to say blessings to you and your team and your family. Stay healthy. And we hope to see you someday face to face. Chris Gould, Senior Vice President of Salem Media Group, National Program Development and Ministry Relations. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.